here is why Moldova is increasingly easy to visit and why it should be on your list of international locations to look at in terms of global mobility, internationalization, and globalization alongside global business. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Report. Today I'm going to go over why Moldova is increasingly opening up to tourism and why it should be on your short list of tourist destinations in the near future. I am presently here in the beautiful capital city of Chișinău, Moldova, and today it is sort of hectic, but it is a nice city overall. Relatively speaking, of course, you're not going to have a huge market here. It's a country of right around 3 million people, and so you have sort of a 3 million person market, and that's not very large. So it's roughly on a par in terms of market size as a lot of places in Africa. Of course, a lot of places in Africa have larger populations. However, it is, of course, the second poorest nation in Europe. Now, this does not inherently mean that there is problems with Moldova or problems with its growth trajectory. Inherently, I think that Moldova is going in very much the correct direction in terms of how it is presenting itself in the global sphere. And so you sort of gain this ideal that it's mismatched in terms of professional quality of workers and so forth. But it is increasingly growing. It is increasingly growing in tourism, growing in connections for its airport. And if you look at the fastest growing airports, Chișinău is up there. And so you gain sort of a international flight ability now that you didn't once have. And then on top of that, you gain sort of an ability to go via rail to Ukraine. And it is one of the cheaper options to visit Ukraine, as a bus ticket to Odessa is, I believe, around 20 euro, which is not insanely cheap, but it's not expensive either. And so you gain a lot of different ways to go around the region, and additionally, it is just a beautiful country in terms of its greenery, in terms of its wineries, and so you get sort of a beautiful country, beautiful destination that you can live for less than $20 a day is, good enough to get an apartment, to go out to eat once a week, get groceries. And so you essentially have a $20 a day destination in Europe that you sort of are able to move around Europe as well, and it is becoming highly connected. And so you also get a neutral country that is fairly welcoming to outsiders, that is fairly understanding of outsiders. And unlike Ukraine, unlike a lot of these places, Georgia, that dislike speaking Russian, there isn't any issue with speaking Russian here in Moldova, as they understand that most tourists aren't going to learn Romanian. I'm working on it. Of course, I don't speak it quite yet, and I'm truly trying to learn it, but if you only speak Russian, they will be totally fine with that. And increasingly, the younger folks speak English. I'd say under 35, you have a pretty good chance of being able to speak English. Maybe a 50 to 70% chance, which creates an interesting environment where, of course, things are a bit more international in how they're done, and additionally they have sort of a Romanian service culture mixed with a Russian service culture, which creates an interesting dynamic where people are more high energy, but there's still massive criticism of their institutions and how things get done. And so, of course, I'm making video series here in Moldova as we are speaking. I am presently here in the capital, as I said. I apologize for all of the noise in the background. I'll throw up some B-roll of the city just so you can get an idea of how Chișinău looks. Additionally, whenever I go on the train to Romania, I will give you all the information that you need on the train to Romania, as I believe that it is important to understand what goes into global mobility. And additionally, I would like to work on interviews for this country and really get the ideas of its constituents. That said, if you want to join me on that journey, feel free to subscribe down below. If you are looking for one-on-one consulting, I will give you 15 minutes absolutely free of charge. Again, look down below. If you are looking for a way to support me financially on this journey, feel free to look in the description and you will find Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. If you really enjoyed it, feel free to share it. Without further ado, this has been the Traveling Reports, and I'm off.